A memory shows how our protagonist, Ash Blake, was on the verge of death in an unknown place when a spirit of the forest came to help him, as the kid deserved a better end than he did. After the memory concludes, Ash wakes up again at his dorm and leaves to attend class at the Ansarivan Dragonar Academy as a first-year student. The Dragonar Academy is a place where students learn to summon and use dragon pals for marks on their bodies. But Ash, known as the problem child, had an unusual state of not being able to summon his dragon yet. Ash is hanging out with his friend Raymond when we get to meet Student Council President Rebecca as the students prepare for the upcoming race at the Aries Dragonar Festival. Since Ash is incapable of having his own dragon, he is doing some practice on Raymond's dragon when he gets in some trouble with an arrogant young lady named Princess Sylvia. Sylvia ends up making fun of Ash for not having a dragon yet, and their argument leads to the two having a challenge in the upcoming race. The race begins the next day as scheduled, and after Ash had been left behind by Sylvia and her dragon, he stopped in the jungle to catch a breath. Our guy gets suddenly jumped by two people, and he ends up falling down a cliff while trying to save the girl Anya. Ash initially seems to be in great trouble, but his luck shines in the form of his dragon finally awakening. Ash's dragon was quite unusual, as it turned out to be looking like a little girl. The girl attends school with Ash the next day, where he shows her around and gets her something to eat. Ash gets in trouble with Princess Sylvia, who ends up apologizing to him for the commotion she caused yesterday. Ash later names the girl as Eiko and solidifies the master-servant relationship with his dragon. Eiko leaves to visit the restroom, but gets abducted by an unknown person. Ash, who is waiting outside for Eiko, meets up with Sylvia to search for her with his dragon seal. He manages to rescue Eiko from the site where she was being used as a test subject after having a little hard time. The next day, the academy arrives for some different problems for Ash, as Rebecca seems to be quite interested in recruiting him to the student council for his abilities. Sylvia, who was outside, minding her own business with her dragon, suddenly feels the urge to compete with Ash and tries to ride a dragon other than hers, just like Ash can. The experiment turns out to be a miss, as Rebecca had to later interfere and stop the dragon from raging by using her own dragon pal. Rebecca later invites Ash, Eiko, and Sylvia to a little feast, and just when things were going quite well, the people who had interfered with Ash earlier arrive at the city and lead to the city being under attack by a giant, terrifying dragon. The dragon was wreaking havoc. When Rebecca tried to engage him herself, Eiko ends up getting swallowed by the dragon in her usual ignorance, and Sylvia gets too scared to do absolutely anything, since the dragon was seemingly too much for Rebecca to handle. Luck shined for Ash once again, as Eiko granted him an arch armor with some instructions from a person named Navi. With the armor supporting him, our protagonist heads straight for the giant dragon and leads him to a suitable position by controlling him with his ability. Ash lands the final blow to the dragon to save the day and later succeeds in joining the student council alongside Princess Sylvia. A ceremony is held for the announcement of the new student council members by Rebecca later on, where Ash manages to somehow explain himself despite being worried about the backlash. The ceremony wraps up with Eiko lighting up the mood, and Ash is having some fun in class when they get visited by fan club girls for the Silver Knight, who seems to be quite obsessed. Rebecca handles the situation well for the time being and later tells Ash to maintain a low profile, as the fan club girls might try to get a bit too close to him if they found out that he is the Silver Knight after all. Life was quite usual at the academy when Sylvia started showing some mood swings that led her maid Cosette to reveal about her to Ash and friends. Sylvia later made up with Ash and cleared out any sorts of misunderstandings before the big event of the first princess visit arrived at the academy. The first princess, Veronica, sets her first step on the academy grounds by seeing through a facade that was set by Cosette due to Sylvia's nervousness. Veronica demands the real Sylvia and humiliates her before calling her unworthy of the battlefield. Seeing the state of Sylvia does not fit right with Ash, who tries to interfere but just ends up getting carried to the royal chambers on the orders of Veronica. Ash gets dressed up well on Veronica's orders and learns more about the royal bloodline while he is with the personal maid assigned to him, and attends a duel that is set for Sylvia to prove her worth in front of her sister with Eiko. The duel seems to end just like Veronica expected, and Sylvia loses the match pretty quick. She wakes up to the news that she would be married to the Knight Glenn, and is later at a church with the leader of the fan club girls, when complications increase for her as the church gets attacked by a member of someone of the same tribe as the girl from earlier on. The girl introduces herself as Avacha and claims that she is here to take out all the sinners before her group detains everyone at the church and starts threatening to blow the whole place up with planted bombs. Back at the Imperial ship, Veronica receives the news of the incident, and since the moment is not right for them to charge in straight, Rebecca comes up with a plan of sending Ash up front to negotiate with Avacha and handle the situation. Ash leaves after requesting an arch from Eiko and arrives at the church to end up failing to negotiate and gets held down as well. Veronica's initial plan was to let the church blow up, but Sylvia ends up standing up for a little child among the hostages and declares that she wants to become a paladin and the strongest among her family. Sylvia's speech gave enough time for the backup to switch plans, and just as they arrive, Ash puts on his dragon arch to freeze the enemies alongside the bomb, to save the lives of everyone at the place. After the incident wraps up, Ash takes Sylvia outside on his back, and the whole group has a second meeting with Veronica, who reveals that Avacha is actually her servant, and the whole thing that just happened was her plan to bring Sylvia's true potential out. Veronica claims to have a lot of belief in her little sister, and the events end up on a happy note, as Rebecca makes Jessica a member of the student council as well, since she was aware of Ash's identity as the Silver Knight. Some time passes at the academy after the recent events with Avacha, and a training camp is announced by the officials. Since a member of the student council named Luca was supposedly absent, Rebecca ends up recruiting Ash Blake with the help of a special invitation. Later on in the student council, Rebecca is justifying her reasons to Ash alone in the council room when the other members of the council eavesdrop, seeming to be quite interested in the matter as well. Their cover gets blown out quite easily, and Rebecca welcomes the others by revealing Luca, who is the secretary of the student council, to them. Luca was a young elf member of the council, who was having problems with her dragon Gawain, as he won't let Luca ride him. Ash is wondering about the matter with Luca later on with Sylvia, and comes across Luca, who gets scared trying to get close to Gawain yet again. Ash indulges in a conversation with Rebecca about the thing, and she reveals her plan of making Ash ride Gawain with his abilities. Ash accepts the request and later takes on his arch armor to ride Gawain, but things take a turn for the worse when the dragon gets on the defensive upon his first interaction with our guy. Gawain turns out to be a lot stronger than Ash initially thought, which led to him passing out after losing his arch armor. Ash is having a conversation about the matter with the rest of the girls afterwards, whereas at some other place, the people who had been causing problems earlier, named Milgos and Anya, are at a secluded place planning their next move out. Milgos orders Anya to spy on Ash's next moves, and she immediately gets to work, where she ends up coming across Luca, who is giving another try to have a talk with Gawain. Luca gets shunned yet again by her dragon, but this time Ash, who was watching from the sidelines, steps up to communicate with Gawain again. Our guy ends up getting knocked down again and meets Navi at the High Dragon Workshop, where he comes to know about the real reason behind Gawain's behavior is his fear of hurting Luca a second time. Ash wakes up again in a safe place next to Luca, where he reassures her that Gawain does not hate her and that they only have 5 days to save him or else the dragon will die. Things get a little hectic pretty quick on the trip, as Gawain suddenly went missing. Luca suspects that he must have gone to the mausoleum to die in peace, and Ash takes Sylvia and Iko with him to help Lacane looking for the dragon. The group enters the mausoleum to find a giant horde of necromancer dragons, who were summoned by Milgos. The dragons proceed on their way to destroy the surrounding area, and are held back by Rebecca and company. Ash and his friends confront Milgos, who Sylvia suspects of being her dead brother Julius, before Ash attacks him with his arch armor. Milgos ends up not being affected by the attack, and Ash later falls from the cliff with a confident Luca, who succeeds in calling Gawain for help. Luca reunites with her dragon and justifies her rank in the student council by literally defeating all the necromancer dragons with a single blow. After the chaos wraps up for now, Ash leaves for the royal capital with Sylvia and Iko, where he has an audience with the king, who is a paladin himself. Since the meeting is at night, Ash takes Iko out to enjoy, while Anya is revealed to be sneaking into the capital with ulterior motives. The royal dinner arrives, and Ash receives a surprise up front from the king himself, when he suddenly decides to grant him the rank of a Dragonar, making him part of the nobility as well. Ash and the rest proceed to attend an audience with the king, and things are seemingly possible when we come to know that Milgos is in the capital as well, and is having a deal with a royal named Claus, who is planning to destroy the reputation of the royal kingdom by terrorizing people with the power of the dragon kind. Ash is resting after the hectic day at the capital when he is visited by Sylvia, who is rather worried about the fact that Milgos resembles her supposedly dead brother a lot. Ash comforts Sylvia with his words, and in the meantime Iko, who is trying hard to get Ash's attention, ends up running away after realizing that Ash will not be in love with her since he is human. The little dragon pal gets kidnapped by Milgos' organization, and Ash proceeds to attend the royal party with Sylvia, with no clue of where Iko is. Milgos had attended the party as well, along with Claus as his bodyguard, and his presence leads Sylvia to try hard and somehow get a conversation with him to answer her questions. While the party was still going on, Iko had been brought to a facility where a doctor performed some experiments on her in a machine that led to the poor girl finally releasing her inner energy to form a giant golden ball, leading Ash to rush for her help. Ash ends up getting a bit too late, and Iko transforms into her true form of a huge dragon that no one had ever seen before. Iko loses control after the transformation and starts to cause destruction to everything that was around her. At the royal party, Claus tries to use this opportunity to destroy the king's status as the top one of the hierarchy, and Milgos finally takes his mask off to reveal himself as Julius. Julius' identity had a twist as his body was under the control of his dragon Mordred, who later left Julius to take complete control of Eiko's huge dragon. With our heroes being at a complete disadvantage, Julius steps up to help Ash out in reaching out to Eiko, and their way is supported by the rest of Ash's friends. Our protagonist somehow manages to reach up close to Eiko's body, but is attacked by the dragon. Ash receives some arch power from the real Eiko once again, who grants him enough strength to manifest the Excalibur into reality. With the legendary weapon finally in his hands, Ash rushes forward to take the horn of the dragon down and ultimately free Eiko, bringing her back to her real form. Ash later wakes up to his friends in an injured state, and he apologizes to Eiko for damaging her horn. Ash's life continues at the Dragonar Academy, as he plans to make himself a stronger Dragonar, preparing for many unknown enemies looking his way. The end.